Hey there, it's Craig Ancel from the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. We are celebrating over here and invite you to join us. I can't believe it either, but we have hit the magical 4-year mark. That's right, 4 years of Career Growth Made Easy podcast along with Career Growth Made Easy coaching for my listeners and clients. We're rolling into episode 183, 4 years of Career Growth Made Easy. Please join me and let's take a look back and see how far we've come. I was an engineer and in 2008 lost my job due to the economic collapse. Jobs were scarce. I didn't know where to turn to get help updating my resume. Online services and coaches charge hundreds, even thousands of dollars. I took matters into my own hands and learned how to craft interview-winning resumes. Shortly later, I landed a job with a Fortune 500 company. I've helped many achieve similar success. Now I share my tips to create interview-winning resumes, interviewing excellence, and high-performance growth strategies on my podcast, Career Growth Made Easy. Welcome back to Career Growth Made Easy podcast. It's episode 183, and yes, it's a celebration at the same time. 4 years of Career Growth Made Easy. I tell you, it's been a long journey and an interesting one. Who knew back when December 1st, 2019 came that I would launch my first 3 episodes? Boy, it was something. I can kind of remember the day where I had my setup, what computer equipment I had, and how nervous I was. If you go back and listen to my intro episode, my first and then my first 2 releases, I'll tell you, I probably had butterflies in my stomach at the time. I was so happy and proud to do it, but at the same time, scared and nervous. I think any time that you start something new, there's always that potential for self-doubt, concern, worry. Will I be good enough? Will anybody listen? Will I be downloaded? Will anybody subscribe? There's so many what-ifs in the world. And you know, I'm here to tell you it doesn't matter. Follow what your heart tells you. Follow where your passion takes you, and you generally will end up on the better side. No, it's not easy. It's going to take a lot of work, as I can attest to over the 4 years of scratching, clawing, climbing, pushing, and working late nights on top of a full-time job. But I'm happy to do it, to give you the absolute best content I can for Career Growth Made Easy listeners and my coaching clients. Going back to December 1st, 2019, if that rings a bell with any of you, or there's a certain time period that you're starting to wonder and think back, yes, you're right. Who knew I started a career growth coaching business and a podcast right before COVID, literally months before? You would think that career growth coaching and a podcast would have thrived during COVID, but that's not necessarily the case for myself or my fellow coaches out there during that time period. Yes, people had trouble with their jobs. Yes, people were being sent home. A lot of work from home positions or AWL, alternate work location positions, existed, and it was new for all of us. That brought stressors, concerns, fears, but people weren't worried about how well they could work from home or their alternate location. We were more worried about our lives, our health. We were in fear during the initial COVID period, and then as it extended month after month, year after year, it took a toll on us. But today's show is not about that. It's about the celebration and also to recall the struggles and also the triumphs. If you remember, and you've been a long-time listener, I've had a variety of topics and also guests on my show once we hit the 100 episode mark, and some of those guests were absolutely fantastic to talk to. We had a great time. I should say all the guests were fantastic to talk to. Some piqued listeners' curiosity and interest more than others, and some hit home with others with different viewpoints, different backgrounds. Over the years, I've held a lot of passions, and with those passions, I have incredible focus. One of my passions is about money management and budgeting. And besides the fact that I've mentioned I've listened to and followed the Dave Ramsey Show and his programs, there was somebody that I had on, a friend of mine and colleague, that helped us. And it was episode 101, Change Your Money Mindset with Vlad, Iovu. So that was great to have on someone that brought us the money mindset from a different viewpoint. Also, I'm a big fan of support. I want to cheer you on, be proud of you, and support you. So why would we not have someone else on that specializes in that? Episode 103 was Being a Balcony Cheerleader with Miss Thunder. That was fantastic and a high-energy show, I have to tell you. Now, none of this could be possible with regards to social media, my email, my customer service management on the software side if I didn't have my daughter, my digital manager, Madison Ancel. She rang in the 100th episode with us and gave us some viewpoints on what she does for my business, what she can do for you if you have a business and need social media or website help, and some of the challenges and triumphs we've had together. I'm big into volunteering and giving back to the community, and I was very fortunate working with Duke Energy and Siemens Energy to visit the Florida Sheriff's Youth Ranch. I think they have 6 or 7 locations in Central Florida. I was able to grab an interview with their director, Wayne Witczak. It was getting to know the Florida Sheriff's Youth Ranch. It went so well that it actually became a 2-part series. So if you're interested in what the Florida Sheriff's Youth Ranch does, please check that episode out. Those episodes, 126, 127. Speaking of 2-part episodes, who else besides none other than American Idol's William Hung would we have on Career Growth Made Easy? I met William back in Podfest 2023, and since then we've been building a steady relationship. He was so kind, and I was so honored to have him on my show for episode 146 and episode 147. It was interviewing American Idol's William Hung, followed by William Hung, entertainer, speaker, podcast guest. We really dove into his background, how he came to where he was on American Idol, and what also drives him forward. We've kind of become friends, and we still stay in touch to this day. So it's nice. You never know who you'll meet out in the streets, out in the speaking venues, and what kind of relationships you'll build. But I'll tell you, though, from the first day that my show started, I have to admit, it was broadly focused, or it was just contained broad content. Career Growth Made Easy. Literally for anyone and everyone that wanted to look at their careers, their jobs. From people applying to your first-time jobs to those with experience as much as 20, 30 years of career experience, because I can attest to that, having that same experience, and can share my journey with people. But that was just too broad. Over the years, I focused down, and I realized that for this show, my focus has always been the entry-level positions or new-to-the-job world positions. In such, I've been able to speak to over 600 high school and college students on career growth, and that's been fortunate to take place both in public and private schools. I've also had the opportunity to speak at some local churches sharing my career growth strategies. Then, on a one-on-one level, several listeners have reached out to me after unexpected job losses. This is what I like to call battle stations mode. If you've listened to my show for any time and you know my history, you know that I went through this exact same thing many, many years ago. And we got together and immediately found a way to rewrite the resumes for each of my clients. You can't understand that until you go through it. And that's one of the main drivers why I have a coaching business today and this podcast to give free career growth coaching information. When the carpet is suddenly pulled out from beneath you and you no longer have an income, no longer have a job, there's no guarantees in life, as we say, except death and taxes, and a job is never guaranteed. So I really preach the fact that we should all be prepared when it comes to our careers, to our jobs, and have a solid resume, one that is locatable, one that is updated, and one that is formatted to the proper standards of 2023. Well, now we're approaching 2024. But I'm not here to preach today. I just got a little bit emotional thinking about the feelings I had when my job loss occurred to me, and then when I helped some of my most recent clients when an unexpected job loss occurred. I had one client that had been working in a certain industry for several years. She went in on the day of her anniversary just like a normal work day. And she was met by her leadership team, which normally had given her accolades, and she had awards from customer service and other vendors. That day, they simply said they were changing their direction and no longer needed her in that position. That position was no longer needed. Talk about the wind taken out of your sails. Talk about a course correction. Well, that defined battle stations for sure. And we worked together to help her turn her ship around in a week. Those stories are not uncommon, whether I hear it from listeners, people on the streets of Central Florida as I walk by and some recognize me, or when I have clients, we work one-on-one. If you ever have a situation like that where you're uncomfortable, unsure of your situation at work, you're hearing there's a potential for downsizing, reduced hours, or job loss, please don't go through this alone. I would love to be considered one of your resources. I've helped many, and I would love to help you. Honestly, no matter where you get help, just make sure you don't go through it alone. The support of your family, friends, and if you're part of a church or any organizations and groups can really help. So just make sure you do yourself a favor. And when there's times of potential struggle, reach out to qualified people that can help. Now, switching gears a bit. I had found a variety of ways to connect and network, both with my listeners and in the business-to-business community. One year, I found something called Podfest. I attended a couple years in a row, typically around the December-January timeframe, and they usually took place in Orlando. I noticed a variety of speakers and said, one day maybe I could be one of those speakers. Well, after a few attendances, I bit the bullet, and I submitted some content for a speaking spot. It just so happens this was last year, and as I approached my 3-year celebration mark with podcasting, it gave me the opportunity to submit a show where I could speak and talk for 5 minutes, and I titled it 3 Years of Podcasting in 300 Seconds. Kind of catchy, right? Well, I actually was awarded the position to speak last year in Orlando to a very large audience. The show went over incredibly well, or the speaking event went over incredibly well. And I was inspired by many, many others with similar stories of success, sharing their struggles and how they overcame. The interesting thing, though, about Podfest, you'd never know who you're going to run into. That's where a lot of connections have come from for me, and I continue to call a lot of those connections friends, as well as several business acquaintances. There happened to be a talent scout in the audience that day, and long story short, I was asked if I would like to start a new podcast through a Hollywood, California label called Electrocast. After some research and even a trip out, yes, that's right, a trip out to Hollywood, where we did a brief photo shoot, I decided to sign onto the Electrocast label. Electrocast uses a service called Megaphone, and Megaphone is owned by Spotify. So I've started my new show very recently, and it's called Career Advancement with Craig Ancel. We're starting to release the shows as I speak, and I think we're about at episode 8 right now. So it'll take a little time to get onto the airwaves and to propagate onto the other servers and to the other podcast apps, but take a look out for Career Advancement with Craig Ancel. What separates the difference between Career Growth Made Easy and that show? Career Growth Made Easy, we're niching down into an entry-level or limited experience career experience. So let's say that just as your first-time job application, you could use our content from Career Growth Made Easy. Or if you maybe have up to, let's say, 5 years of experience, you're getting your feet wet, you're getting into your role, making sure your resume is up to date, potentially needing a cover letter, or talking about how to perform at work, how to communicate with your peers and colleagues, this is absolutely the show for you. With Career Advancement, I talk a little bit more about experienced situations, experienced positions. Most people on that show are listeners on that show are interested in broadening themselves, deepening themselves with knowledge, or potentially moving toward a promotion and into a leadership or management role. So this show gets your feet wet, gets you started, make sure you have your documents in order. We talk about interviewing techniques, that's right, as well as even how to apply for jobs, how to focus and how to target on jobs. Once you've got that job for a while, or you've had several, and you're starting to build out your career portfolio, thinking, what's next? Do I want to continue to stay at the individual contributor level? Maybe you love that, and this is the show for you. But if you've got that feeling, that burning inside of something more, maybe you're interested in a supervisory role, leadership, guiding a team, there's something gnawing at you, just as you want to give more, you want to get more out of your position, then career advancement may be the show for you as well. Honestly, because I'm the host of both, I selfishly think they both have great content, and I hope you do too. I'm smiling, but what can I say? Being the host and content creator of both shows, it just gives me a way to share content in two different venues, if you will. I'll be releasing some of my Hollywood trip photos on social media, so please make sure that you subscribe to this show, and if you haven't yet, Career Advancement with Craig Ancel. I would be honored to have you on both. And then my social media handle is at Craig Ancel, CraigAncel. It's Facebook Meta, LinkedIn, and Instagram. I also wanted to mention that over the 4 years, I've been very thankful to meet a variety of people. Many people have helped support the show through prayer, through donations, through just being clients. And in many cases, we both received rewarding and enriching experiences. I've even had the opportunity to speak at a couple businesses. Some have found me through social media, and others through word of mouth, or one of my current or past employers have reached out. And when I speak at businesses, it can be in any subject matter content that I've provided over my 180 plus episodes from Career Growth Made Easy, or it can be custom tuned content for what you and your team need. In this case, I was very fortunate to speak at a company called Sandvik. They are now titled Alleima, their new company name, but they're a multi-billion-dollar biomedical company, and they're in Palm Coast, Florida, which is a little bit north of Central Florida. One of the things that caught their mind was one of my social media posts about firefighting versus fire prevention. If you've been involved in project management at all or working on projects, you might have heard the term risk management or issue management, issue resolution. The firefighting approach versus fire prevention. Firefighting is what you do when a problem occurs, when an issue occurs. And fire prevention is when you try to manage risks so that those risks, those concerns, those potential trouble spots don't turn into problems and don't turn into issues. That particular episode caught their eye, at least in their human resources department, and they gave me a call to see if I could custom tune some content for their company. And lo and behold, we eventually agreed on speaking content. I was honored to speak to Sandvik for a period of 2 hours. And I'd be honored to speak to you or your company if you have similar interests. Again, please don't forget to reach out at Craig Ancel, Facebook, Meta, LinkedIn, Instagram, or Craig@CraigAncel.com, where you'll reach me directly. I also had the opportunity, as I mentioned, to speak to hundreds of students, and some of those conversations are one-on-one, and others were in group settings. You could just see the joy, the curiosity in their eyes when the light bulb would go off and they learned something new about resumes, learned what a cover letter was, how it was easier to create than they thought rather than be mystified by it and something that it was old school. And then also that you don't just apply for jobs, you target jobs. And that just is so rewarding to work together to enrich each other. I mentioned something about coaching and mentoring as well. And many times people hold you on a platform when you're a host or a coach, but that's not the case at all, at least for me. And I hope you'll agree. I believe in co-mentoring or co-coaching. You may hire me in a situation where you need help with your resume, cover letter, interviewing, job transition, whatever the case may be, wanting to perform better at work. But in the end, I may provide value to help you succeed. I expect to help you provide value to succeed, but it is a dual enriching experience. I learn from you and you learn from me. And in the case of mentoring, it's very similar. You might have a mentor-mentee relationship, but in the end, it's really co-mentoring. You'll both benefit from these conversations. It's been a roller coaster ride, starting out with my first 3 shows in 2019, powering through COVID together, and now coming out on the other side. finding out that there was interest in starting a different niche podcast with career advancement, and then having the ability to speak at several businesses, such as Sandvik, Alleima being one, and Siemens Energy being another. I was honored to be asked to speak at both of those situations, and I'm very thankful for those opportunities. If you have a school situation that could benefit from me speaking at your school, publicly or privately, or if your business has needs with regards to career growth coaching, efficiency, process improvement, anything along those lines, especially if it comes down to interpersonal communication, whether it's one-on-one, one-on-group, such as meetings, or even email, written communication, that's something I specialize in. I talked in one of my shows about 80 or 90% of our communication is nonverbal. It's mostly body language. So, yes, it's important about the words that we choose to speak, but it's also important the words we choose not to speak. Then there comes the delivery. Just think about it if you don't believe me for a moment. How emotional have you been able to get from seeing a certain text message at a time? Or an email message as you start to read? The old feeling, oh, it made my blood boil, or he or she really got under my skin, or that message really got to me. That's the power of words. We truly don't know how that text was meant to be delivered, other than maybe some punctuation emphasizing it. But imagine the power of body language. That helps us sell our message, whether we're going up for a promotion, we're interviewing, or conveying critical information. So remember, it's not just about the words chosen, it's also about the words you choose not to speak and your body language, how you represent it and how you present it to get your point across truly and fully, genuinely. I can't thank you enough for being a valued listener of the Career Growth Made Easy podcast, as we have now hit and blown through 4 years of Career Growth Made Easy. I'm also looking forward to hitting that 200 episode mark. It is going to be a massive celebration over here. Thank you for sticking around towards the end of today's show. I would absolutely be honored if you're interested in joining me growing with my company. In order to do so, we have a special sale, the Career Growth Made Easy Special. My resume masterclass is on sale. It is 50% off to celebrate not only Black Friday, but also our 4-year anniversary. Please consider going to craigancel.com, clicking classes, and taking a look at the resume masterclass. It will help you draft your first resume, update an existing resume, or if you're switching jobs or careers, completely redesign your resume to today's standards. I've talked to dozens of human resource professionals, recruiters, hiring managers, directors, and other folks responsible for managing and hiring, and I've found out their pet peeves and also their interests and what they're curious about with clients. This information comes from small businesses as well as Fortune 500 companies. I've put together that digital package, which you can watch over your time to make sure that you fully know what's required to target a job, create an interview-winning resume, and also seal the deal during the interview. I'll help you through all that, partly through my resume masterclass and then any additional coaching you may need. Thank you so much for being a valued Career Growth Made Easy listener as we close 4 years of podcasting the Career Growth Made Easy show. God bless you. I am your host, Craig Ancel. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel. New episodes every Monday. In the meantime, why don't you follow us on social media at Craig Ancel on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. To book a coaching appointment, download our free guides, or join our email list, check out the links in the description below.